Ciao guys and welcome back, it's your friend Luca, and in today's video I'm gonna talk about the gem of the Zeiss Classic lineup called Zeiss Distagon 25mm f2. A beautiful and amazing lens, like all of them, but this in particular is probably one of the best. One of the biggest problem or feature that you can find on the Zeiss Classic lineup are the chromatic aberrations and the high level of contrast, mostly because of the coating used for these lenses and because they didn't really use aspherical elements to control the chromatic aberrations. So Zeiss designed the 25mm f2 thinking about these problems found on Zeiss Classic lenses. So this 25mm lens doesn't really suffer from chromatic aberrations except in some particular cases, for example while shooting wide open at f2 in really high contrasty scenes. But on the bokeh you barely see any color fringing. There is a tiny bit of green and magenta in the background and foreground, but it's really tolerable. So this is almost an apochromatic lens sold for really cheap price compared to what we see with the Otus lineup. And in Zeiss Classic there is also the 135mm f2 Apo. If you can have a perfect set and you care a lot about chromatic aberrations, the 25mm f2 and the 135mm f2 are your best choices. Believe it or not, this 25mm f2 is not really designed as a landscape photography lens, but it's more a photojournalistic or a portrait lens. I know it sounds weird, but this lens is not really optimized to take extremely sharp photos at infinity. So this lens performs extremely well at the close and medium distances, but if you focus at infinity, you're gonna get better results with the 21mm f2.8 or the 25mm f2.8. Another interesting feature of this lens is that at f2 you're gonna have an incredible amount of saturation and contrast in the focus plane. It is really unique. It's the best lens that I own if I want to shoot wide open, because the images are extremely rich and powerful. The flare resistance with this lens, it's fantastic. You barely see any flare, and the highlights roll off that you're gonna see with this lens are extremely beautiful. For example, when I take photos in the night with this lens, it looks like there is a diffusion filter in front of the lens because all the lights have a sort of glow, and this is extremely beautiful and cinematic. The vignetting with this lens, it's really pronounced wide open at f2 and is gonna sort of disappear at f4, while the sharpest f-stop of the lens is gonna be at f5.6. If you care a lot about extreme corner sharpness, this is not the lens for you, because this lens cannot achieve sharpness in the corner even if you stop down the lens to f11. The aperture ring is going from f2 to f22. The sunstars are really beautiful if you stop down the lens to f16 or f22. And you can also declick the lens in case you need it, but if you use this lens with a mirrorless camera, you can declick the lens just with the adapter. The focus throw with the lens is really good. I always had difficulties to focus with a wide angle lens like a 24-25mm lens, but with this 25mm f2 I don't have much problems, because from 1 meter to infinity the focus throw is pretty short, and when you go from 1 meter to 0.25 the focus throw is a little bit longer, and the whole range of focus throw, I think it's around 120 degrees. Like always, I recommend you to get the Nikon version over the Canon version, because this is a fully manual lens, while the Canon copy can have problems with the CPU contact in the long term. So if you're looking for a safe investment in the long term of your videography career or photography, I highly recommend you to buy the Nikon version of this lens, and I highly suggest you to grab one as fast as possible, because they are sort of disappearing from the used market. This lens is really superb, it's beautiful. I also tested next to the Leica SL Apo Summicron 28mm f2, and while that Leica lens is obviously superior than this Zeiss lens, I would say that this Distagon 25mm f2 holds pretty well, and I don't really feel the need to upgrade to something better than this lens. So to recap, I highly recommend this lens to anyone that is interested in a great color reproduction of the images, a great dimensionality, and stunning image quality. In my opinion, considering the image quality, the size and the weight of this lens, this is easily a definitive and ultimate ultra-wide-angle lens that you can add in your kit. I don't think you're gonna look to anything else after you get this lens. But let me know in the comment below what do you think about the images I shared with you. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!